can have time to interact. Because last year, we tried to take advantage of the president's magnanimity, but then we were under pressure because of Corona. Since now it doesn't look like Corona is a problem we are going to leave behind, we can as well find a way of getting together with Corona, because we are meeting here and there is Corona. We can also have a retreat with Corona, because you know, we have used it as an excuse to our own detriment. And I say so because, as you know, I would like to be very sincere about this. I'm really proud of you people, and then to be honest with you, working with Ngao in the country has been one of my most fulfilling experiences in life, because when you look at the country as it is right now and managing affairs of government, our colleagues in the National Government Administration have become the go-to people for everything. There's hardly anything we don't do. From 100% transition, female genital mutilation, teenage pregnancies, noise pollution, completion of government projects. There's hardly anything we don't do. I was demonstrating to my colleagues in Arambe House that everybody's at our door every day. The Minister for Transport is asking me about projects that he wants me to tell the RCs to go to. Minister for Land is asking me about problems in Mavoko that he wants us to try and resolve involving land. Minister for Water is asking me about some water project that she wants me to ask some county commissioner to ensure that it's moving forward. Then my colleague in education is asking me to nudge on some county commissioner on 100% transition in their county, and so on and so forth. And from time to time, when you look at the burden that we carry in terms of pushing government projects to move forward, it's actually gratifying that we are all here, and we thank the Lord that He has kept all of us safe and, of course, brought us this far, even as we have been fighting the war against Corona. So I sincerely thank you from the bottom of my heart, all of you regional commissioners and county commissioners, for the heavy lifting that you are doing, especially in the recent times when we have had these challenges in the country. I encourage you to stay the course, because we don't have a spare country. This is our only country on earth. This is our only home on earth. And all these things must be done. We must make sure that we move forward with them. While on this, I will make about 5 points in relation to what we are dealing with today. Number one is a fact. Let's not pretend. We have a challenge in the country right now related to alcohol consumption and drug abuse. We have a serious challenge in the country right now. And then, as P.S. Kibicho says, this is aggravated by the season we find ourselves in. We are moving towards elections, and all manner of unscrupulous people around us believe that this is the time to avail cheap liquor, and all that around, so that it's easier to campaign, because there are people who are willing to spend their money to feed our population with alcohol and so on. In some cases, it's chronic. Mr. Wanyanga, this Ruaka area here in Kiambu, and so many other places that are pointed out, where we have serious challenges, we have serious problems that we are dealing with in the country. So this RRI would not have come at a better time. Let's go out of our way and ensure that we wage a very vicious war against illicit brews. Number two, it's also a fact that we are having our work is made harder by devolution. I will not pretend. Some of our county governments are part of the problem. They're not part of the solution. They're part of the problem. Because of the hunger for revenue by county governments, I know the county commissioner of Embu is here, and he knows the challenges we've had, for example, in Embu. You know, when I was there and the communications we had there before, about, you know, licensing of bars and all that kind of thing. There's a new phenomenon. You know, sometimes we are a hypocritical society. You know, people pretend, especially our political class, they pretend that these things don't exist. For the first time, we are seeing now, and you guys know this more than I do, bars and drinking places being licensed in residential areas, behind houses and so on. Amana Mnangani? Yeah, by county government. And when we raise these issues, county government say it is their responsibility to license some of these funny businesses, and they are chasing revenue. But you see, they are chasing revenue at the expense of the lives of our people. So some counties are doing, you know, despicable things in the name of looking for revenue. Licensing, you know, people's houses, essentially, people's houses to become, you know, drinking areas, you know, as it were. Number three, the COVID-19 crisis has worsened our situation. You know, much as we talk about containment measures and we're asking people to limit the hours for drinking and so on, the fact of the matter is that now people are migrated drinking hours and drinking parties to their homes. All these challenges we have been dealing with. Again, Mr. Wanyanga, you know what we are dealing with, the tea estates in Rimuru. You know, where young people and groups of people going to drink, finding corners in the name of trying to beat the curfew and containment measures, which has made our work even much more difficult. Because, truth be told, however hard we push our officers in the field, I mean, how many areas are you going to police? How many of these areas are you going to police as you move around? And plus, the challenges we have, I will not lie that enforcing COVID-19 containment measures has challenged the national government administration and the police incredibly, because we have had officers who have been working without leave for the last, 17 months. We have had, our police officers work for long hours. Our national government administration officers work for long hours because of these containment measures. So COVID-19 has also posed its serious challenge. Then, fourthly, we have challenges within, which I will speak about very candidly. At this level, I don't have a problem. I have no problem with all the 8 regional commissioners. I know all of them. They're wonderful, good people. I speak to each one of them almost every week. I know a good number of county commissioners. They are very strong and good people. But the levels below you, the DCCs, the SCCs, and if you go through all the way to the chiefs and assistant chiefs, there are parts of this country. The county commissioner of Kericho is here. We were together with you in a meeting in Kericho when I actually gave you statistics, and I was accompanied by 2 colleagues from cabinet, CS Keter and Betty Maina, about the drunkenness in the South Rift part of our country, where chiefs and assistant chiefs, in some cases, and you know this yourself, are people who actually are meant for rehabs. How can you enforce the law? How can you enforce this when you yourself are supposed to be in a rehab? And this is what I would like to say. On this particular one, I know it's going to cause an uproar, but I am prepared to walk this way because it's the right thing to do for the country. I want to ask Osia and your SNA, your team, let's take a position, and you guys will assist us. I want us to remove from the system all these drunken chiefs and assistant chiefs, and DCCs and SCCs. I really do not mind, even if we remove 500 or 600 of them and employ new chiefs and assistant chiefs. I'm not going to prescribe to you. I'm not trying to force you to live my life of not drinking. But there must be discipline. Because if you're a drunken DC, you're wobbling around, how can you enforce what we are saying? Honestly. The power of example is very important. We can enforce these things, but the power of example is very, very important. That those who are sending out as our messengers, who are speaking to our people and who are engaged in this, are serious people. So there's a case we were dealing with here, Osia, you know, of a DC here in Limuru or someplace. I want him gone. And all those kinds of people. Let's remove from our system these people, because if you are a drunk yourself, na umevaa crown ya serikali, sasa utatusaidia namna gani? I mean, how you are wobbling to a baraza to tell people not to consume illicit alcohol? Surely, do you think that makes sense? It doesn't. Let's be firm. I'm asking you, RCs, to require get reports from the county commissioners, and particularly county commissioners. Be hard on the DCCs, the SCCs, the chiefs and assistant chiefs. I mean, our ministry is not going to be a rehab where kazi yetu ni kupeleka watu hospitali, our employees who are abusing alcohol. Sasa as a county commissioner, uko na kazi ya kufanya. Sasa how will you add to that job managing, drunkards? We don't want. Mimi hapana. People will complain and what have you, but let's just be firm. We are not going to live like this. So hiyo ni shida tuko nayo. And now, we must walk the talk. So I want reviews, beginning now. We must review our officers. Wale tuko now. DCCs, in any case, by the way, and then if I ask you, particularly regional commissioners, because you are always dealing with an expansive and huge group of people you are looking at. I mean, Kianda, a drunk chief, how does he help you? Mtu mulevi na ni chief, unamtafuta saa 2 asubuhi, he's drunk na amevaa uniform yetu. They are embarrassing the service. So have meetings with your DCCs, tell them to go down the way to the structure, and have meetings with these people. One of the things we are going to do when we finish this RRI, Osia, you must give us a report. Yes. How many of our officers have been affected and are out of the service? And so on. I don't mind having a conversation with my colleague C.S. Kawe at the Ministry of Health to look at what other possibilities are there to help these officers in terms of rehabilitation and so on. Whether we are going to use capacities at the National Hospital Insurance Fund to help these officers. We will help them and rehabilitate them when they are not our employees. Because we cannot send a drunk to preach to the people of our location what is supposed to happen. Number 5, we must fight compromise. Let me be very honest with you, my brothers and sisters. We are not going to succeed in this thing if we are not fighting compromise. Compromise is where we ourselves or our officers are complicit to the trade that's happening. I don't want to embarrass anyone here. But there are cases where we have followed certain things and you get very frustrated. And you know this. I don't want to go back to these matters. I can remind even my colleagues who are seated on this side of the room. Jega, when you were PRC in Nyanza or Kangi, cases where we follow trucks moving across the border at Hispania, or some of them moving across the border from Busia. And then we are told many stories by officers. You can tell clearly that these officers are colluding with those people who are moving illicit alcohol. It's not right, honestly. We must fight compromise. It begins with us. If we remain firm and we are determined that we are going to sort out this problem, we will sort it out. Lakini hawa watu ambao kama watu wanakuja tuambiane tu ukweli hapa. We are serious public servants. Kama mtu ni rafiki yetu na anafanya hii maneno atakuja kukuona. Ni mtu anauza illicit brews huko. Labda anakuambia atakuletea mbuzi ya Christmas. Wow, me surely. County commissioners and RCs. How can you live like that? Eti ni mtu ambaye anachunganga watu hapa, tunamjua sana, ni mtu mzuri, ni rafiki ya Kitio, ndiye anatuletea Christmas mbuzi. Na ni mtu mkora na anajulikana. We must fight compromise. We are not going to succeed in this RRI. We are adults. Let's just speak to each other as adults. We are not going to succeed in this thing. If we are not going to face people directly and tell them, we can't have this. You may be my friend, we may be, but it's fine. But it can't work this way. Because the greatest challenge we have, it is that aspect of compromise among us and among our colleagues in the police service. The reason why we are not very successful in most of these campaigns is because of that issue of compromise. Where there's a funny story that is told in Arambe House. I'm sure some of you must be knowing it, of a raid that was conducted by a huge team of officers led by PS Kibicho, and in a particular part of this country I don't want to name, and they broke into that place. And the PS and other people were accompanied by senior police officers, including the local DC and the local security team. And when they broke into that compound, a little child ran forward and jumped on the DC and said, "Uncle, how are you?" Your guess is as good as mine. Because do you want to tell me, Nakoru, that a kid can call you uncle if you are not spending time in that home? How will a 3 or 4-year-old know you, Mr. Kianda, if you don't go to that home very regularly? And then that joke is told. We are told about that joke, about a kid who jumped on one of our administrators, jumped on them and said, "Oh, uncle, how are you?" And that is a den of illicit brew. That's where all the imported illicit brew was being stored and so on. And it was hallowed ground. No one used to go in until PS Kibicho himself decided, break this place. And the first person to welcome them was the kid who jumped on the administrator and said, "Uncle." And therein you have all the reasons why that place could not be broken into. Because our own people were fraternizing and spending time with those guys. So, my friends, we must fight compromise. We're not going to succeed in law enforcement if we don't deal with these issues. They may be our friends, they may be our everything, but we have to fight compromise. Finally, because we are here and we are together, I want to address 2 issues related to the season. I know we are going to have another meeting.